All right. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Building Partnerships to Support Economic Growth. Really grateful you took some time out of your day to join us for this webinar. I'm Brett Schwartz, an Associate Director at NADO, the National Association of Development Organizations. As many of you on the call know, NADO represents the nation's network of regional development organizations, many of which are designated economic development districts. And one of the most important roles that EDDs play is serving as regional conveners, bringing together local governments, businesses, nonprofits, educational institutions, and other groups to develop a shared vision for economic and community development. And so through this work, we talk a lot about partnerships and collaboration, right? But what exactly does that look like? And what are the key ingredients in making a partnership work, especially at the regional level when you have so many players and perspectives? And so to help answer that question today, I'm really excited to be hosting this webinar with our friends at NGIN, the New Growth Innovation Network. We'll hear in just a few moments from Swati Ghosh and Cuevas Peacock from NGIN, who will share their research and a really cool resource called the Economic Partnership Alliance Playbook, which is just full of incredible case studies, examples, and most importantly, a really solid and workable framework for thinking about partners and partnership building. So before we dive into the heart of the presentation, just as always, a few warm-up remarks here from me. And this session and many of our webinars that we offer throughout the year are offered through the Economic Development District Community of Practice. This is a 5-year program funded generously through the U.S. Economic Development Administration. So you can see the fine print there on the bottom, but I think a lot of things you're going to hear today will really resonate. I'm really excited that the work that NGIN did on this playbook was funded through EDA. So really excited to have their partnership and the partnership with NGIN throughout the years as well. So you can see the link to learn more about our Economic Development District Community of Practice. We're in our kind of 5th and final year of this project, and I know many of you on the call have participated in webinars and conferences and workshops and checked out some of our publications and much more over this time period. So up on the screen is just a little sampling of some of the types of resources that we've put out through the community of practice. Ultimately, it's to support your work at economic development districts and the wide variety of work and programs that you all work on. So you can see on the screen here, we've got resources related to childcare, to aging and older adults, tribal engagement, data centers, federal grant administration, and much more. So please, if you haven't yet, check out nato.org/EDD CoP to see the entire kind of portfolio and network of what we've created over these past few years. One of the cool little projects that we developed through the community of practice is our Economic Development District map, which you see up here on the screen. So this map shows the kind of national network of over 400 economic development districts across the country, many of which, of course, are represented on the call today. So I think it's always great to kind of look at this map and just be reminded of kind of the family, the network, the partnership that we've developed over the country, and all of you are a part of, kind of sharing, learning, and connecting with each other. If you click on each of the districts here, you'll get information about the website, about what counties are served, what EDA region, and really importantly, I think, especially for this call, is the most recent CEDS for each of the EDDs. So check it out. And just a request from all of you, take a look at this. If we don't have the most recent CEDS up on this website, please just drop us an email and we can update that very quickly. This map's really only as good as the information that's in it, and we rely on all of you to keep us kind of up to date on your most recent planning process. So check it out there too. It's a great way to kind of see what your peers are working on, particularly around CEDS planning and implementation. And just speaking of hearing about what peers are working on, I just wanted to mention that we recently announced our NADO Impact Award recipients for 2026. You can see up on the screen, we had 94 projects from across the country, 20 states, 58 organizations. Each year we build out a story map that you see kind of a screenshot here up on the screen. And this is a great way to just see, again, what your peers are working on, what projects in a wide variety of areas. You can see infrastructure, local government, planning, youth, workforce, and much more. Click on each of the buttons, you'll get to see a little kind of project description of each of these award-winning projects. And one piece that's particularly relevant for today's call is you also see a list of the partners. And I think it's really important that we kind of highlight those each year. And for some of these projects, that list is a mile long and really just goes to show that economic and community development is a team sport. Apologies for the cliched comments, but to really demonstrate that it takes a lot of folks and partners to bring these projects together. So you can check out the QR code there to see our story map or visit on our website to learn more about these pretty amazing projects happening all across the country. Also, just want to plug, since I've got the microphone now, of course, these webinars are always fun, great to connect virtually, but nothing, of course, beats meeting in person. And so we are deep into planning our 2026 NADO Annual Training Conference, which will be held, as you see, in beautiful Reno, Nevada, October 19th to the 22nd. This is a 4-day event where we've got plenary sessions, breakout sessions, networking sessions, receptions, mobile tours out to different projects around the region and much more. So this is the place to be in October if you're working in regional economic development, a chance to connect with other partners as part of this network. And ultimately, I think go home really feeling inspired and grounded in this work. I know every time I leave the ATC, it just kind of, is invigorating. It's exhausting, but invigorating at the same time of being a part of this incredible network of folks working on this really crucial work at this time. So join us October 19th to the 22nd in Reno. More information on our website, of course. So with that, let's ready to turn things over to our all-star panel today, Swati and Cuevas from New Growth Innovation Network. I'll just quickly read a little mini bio, but you'll hear much more from each of them in just a moment. So Swati is the Vice President of Insights and Innovation at NGIN, where she leads program delivery, overseeing research and learning, technical assistance and innovation. She has extensive experience working at the intersection of economic, community, and workforce development to strengthen ecosystems and local regional level. And she's joined on the call today by Cuevas Peacock, who is a senior advisor at NGIN, who supports local economic development practitioners at the city, county, and regional level. Cuevas's background is in community development, community organizing, economic development, entrepreneurial support, and place-based development. So thrilled to have the two of them there. As I mentioned earlier, the theme of this webinar is partnerships. We're so grateful for the partnership that we've developed with NGIN over probably 5+ years at this point. So it's really been exciting to be able to kind of share each other's work, and really excited to hear more about the playbook that was developed through this work. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Swati and Cuevas for our presentation. So take it away.
All right, let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Coming through, I think probably any second now. Got it. There you go.
All right. Thank you so much, Brett, for that warm welcome. And thank you for the opportunity to talk with the EDDs today. We really, really appreciate the partnership with NADO, and so excited to share the insights from our work on the Economic Partnership Alliance with all of you today. Okay. So for those of you who don't know NGIN or New Growth Innovation Network, we are a national nonprofit that is focused on inclusive economic development, working to equip economic, community, and government leaders with the kinds of support and insights that are needed to make sure that all kinds of communities, all shapes and sizes of communities can really lead and benefit from regional economic growth, from the kinds of investment that comes from federal programs, but not just federal, from a lot of private investment as well, and the kinds of opportunities that communities create for each other, for themselves, to attract capital and opportunities to the community. The project that we're talking to you about today, the Economic Partnership Alliance, we partnered with two other very large nonprofits, national nonprofits, LISC and IEDC. I imagine many of you would be familiar with them in sort of building the foundations and building the program on how partnerships can work between especially community-based organizations or CBOs. Those are like the local nonprofits or neighborhood nonprofits, and then economic development organizations or EDOs. And then we also had a partner with HB or a partnership with HBCU CDAC. They are much more focused on historically Black colleges and universities, and primarily in the Southern Belt of the US. And like Brett already mentioned, it was a program that was funded by EDA. But for the audience today, I don't think it is any news for any of you to say that, strong partnerships are essential to advancing community and economic development as EDDs, as economic development leaders. That's a lot of the work that you already do. What we have found is the kinds of partnerships that exist between or can exist between economic development organizations and community-based organizations have not been very commonplace in the past. Part of it is because they come from different sort of vantage points. So CBOs are much more neighborhood focused, whereas EDOs tend to be regional in nature. Where CBOs are oriented towards workers and residents, EDOs tend to have more of a business orientation. And therefore, the kinds of approaches that they utilize in their work is very different. There's no right or wrong here that, it's better to be a CBO, better to be an EDO. But really, we find that when the two can come together, there is like beautiful magic that can happen. And partnerships can really help drive meaningful progress especially in underinvested neighborhoods that have not been a part of sort of that broader prosperity in the community or haven't been a part of that story of people benefiting, communities benefiting from the investment that has come in. So just to break down, what does it mean in terms of cross-sector partnerships? They can help multiply impact, literally in terms of being able to attract more investment, especially in sectors where large-scale investments and long-term commitments are required. So think of these as like the multi-million-dollar investments that can come in around a particular industry sector, or in a lot of cases, if there's a major employer coming in or something, then those are, big investment. They need a long-term commitment. They need a lot of different types of partners to come together to make it a reality. They also help build economic and strength. They can drive innovation, bring in different perspectives and resources. No one organization or one leader can really think about or bring together all of the resources that are necessary to make sure that the community is thriving. And it allows for stakeholders, those people, those leaders that are engaged, to tackle many more complex problems together, because you're not just sort of relying on the excellence of one, but on the shared sort of collective power of many. All of you are familiar with EDA. EDA's vision in creating this program was to build the capacity and knowledge of CBOs on what economic development is, what kinds of projects EDA funds, or the kinds of projects that economic development organizations in general do, to support EDOs and EDDs in working with CBOs much more and building their sort of muscle and insight on what CBOs are, how they function, how they can sort of partner together, and then provide a lot of directed sort of technical assistance support that would allow EDOs and CBOs in a community to actually look at sort of building those partnerships that are necessary. So really, there was the training part and let's increase the knowledge and insights. And then there was sort of the or the theory part and then the practical part of it. But together, all of this, we've realized through the work that, this has served as infrastructure for local economic development and community-centered approaches that can be reflected in regional planning. And I know that Cuevas will go into more detail around that specific term infrastructure a little bit more. But really, the focus was to really help unlock the potential of these kinds of organizations coming together and driving meaningful change in their communities. So with that, let me invite Cuevas.
Thank you, Swati. And thank you all for giving us space to share more about the work here at NGIN. With this particular slide, it highlights where the alliance really started, and not with just a specific project, but with a purpose of making sure that those who are involved in these collaborations or these partnerships have a good shared understanding of those who may be coming from a different sector or a different field. So over 6 months and split into two, 3, 6 months cohorts, we trained 141 different organizations. They were a combination of both CBOs and EDOs, where together they learned aligned material around the history and background of these different sectors at the same time. This curriculum wasn't just focused on generic economic development. It covered 14 specifically. First being economic development principles and cross-sector partnership models. So allowing all on the calls to develop a sense of shared vocabulary. Is focused on mapping local economic ecosystems and identifying community assets. So that CBOs and EDOs are working from the same local stakeholders, the same map of local stakeholders. It focused on practical steps to launch and sustain a CBO and EDO collaboration. So not just the how, but the why. Uh, so both the how and the why, we should actually develop these collaborations and how you can go about doing it. And then it also focuses on measuring and evaluating partnership impact, because if you can't measure the partnership, you can't really tell if it's working. And so this particular phase one served as a, a requirement for those organizations before going to phase two of the partnership program. And so if you can go to phase two for me, that's fine. So through phase two, 24 coalitions received more of a deeper dive technical assistance. This was technical assistance that was focused not just on a specific webinar, but it really helped these different coalitions get and receive hands-on support to build strengthening collaborations and co-design various projects. And I'm gonna go into what that support looked like. But one thing I would say is that out of these particular coalitions, we was able to see a wide range of different types of projects that came out. They look different based upon the community, but a couple of the more of the clusters, the recognizable types of projects were aligning neighborhood plans with regional growth strategies, advancing housing and entrepreneurship models together, leveraging local anchor institutions to support investments in local neighborhoods, strengthening workforce and developing employee engagement strategy for local hiring. So again, these projects were really just based upon the local context and the local desires of the local collaborations. But it just showed that through our work and through our approach, we didn't try to just do a one size fit all or come up with a single project. We wanted to make sure that they really worked towards doing something that was relevant and appropriate for their own localized communities. Uh, Next slide. One thing I will also say is that when we looked at all those projects, the goal was for the EDOs and CBOs to actually co-design something together and not just consult from a distance. And so the whole focus was them to do this work together. And in front of you, we see now the particular Alliance site map. It shows that we had a wide range of projects from across the country. We had two cohorts, one in green, one in blue. And then as we look at these particular cities, you can see the geography, not just in the different ranges of locations, but just the types of cities as well. From cities in Maine to Sacramento to Puerto Rico, we had small and mid-sized cities. We had different regions. We had different political and economic contexts. But even though the local context may have changed, the particular partnership infrastructure model that we have was the foundation was the same, and we chose to adopt it locally each and every time. And so with that next slide, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into that particular partnership framework. So, as mentioned, in community and economic development, we tend to treat partnership as a soft skill. A secondary thing is the relationship part. It's a thing that happens around the real work. And through the alliance, we sought out to reframe that. For a city, for a community, partnership should be considered infrastructure. It should be considered load bearing. The same way you wouldn't build a corridor without roads, water, and power lines, you can't build economic development collaborations without the connected infrastructure that lets institutions and community actually move together. And like any infrastructure that needs to be built and maintained and funded as well. I like to think of it as that as we all seek to do systemic work, there needs to be an underlying system behind it. There needs to be an ecosystem of partners that come together, and there needs to be support in helping those ecosystems stand up in order to do the underlying systemic work. And so for all those on the call, what this means in practice is that infrastructure is the shared systems a partnership runs on. It's a common language, it's agreed upon roles, it's decision-making rhythms, it's a way of handling the power and money together. And it's what lets a coalition survive staff turnovers or grant cycles ending or hiring disagreement. And so before we even touch any of those specific projects that were mentioned earlier, we focus on by helping, and our primary focus was helping to stand up and lay out the infrastructure necessary to support these various coalitions. And so we did that by really focusing on these 8 different areas. These areas are broken up into 3 different clusters, but to kind of walk through these 8 different areas, and again, this is the work that we did within our particular sites. The first one focused on community learning, which is what was shared before around how had those people from different sectors to again just to get a better understanding of who you're working with. I would hate for, I think about local communities I've served in, where I work for a local housing nonprofit, and we know the Chamber of Commerce is there, we know they're a major agency, but we really don't know what they do or why they do it, and vice versa. And so by doing a sense of community learning, it helps to make sure that people are grounded in who you're working with, have a good understanding of the partners you're working alongside. And then we shifted into doing work around relationship building with our sites. As you will see that a lot of different projects can come out of these partnerships. There are a lot of chances for pivots, but by having that established relationship, by having that sense of shared language, shared history, and really that sense of shared values, that allows for any potential pivots that may come through this partnership development to not deter the overall partnership as a whole. You may shift the project or the project may change, but that doesn't mean that the partnership will falter by the work we did to support and stand up those shared values. We also looked at power sharing, which is really just naming the real relationship between institutions, communities, and power, allowing them to build towards partnerships that are seek to be balanced and not imbalanced. Knowing that in some communities, the EDOs have a larger leverage, a larger influence than the CBOs. And so we wanted to make sure that as we were able to name that, and through naming that work, we was able to help these various communities see how they need to share power and how they can better share power amongst themselves. And then we did work with these various communities once they recognize that they have some shared power to help them uncover what is the data that's needed to make the proper decisions for their community. And so agreeing upon a data that can inform any particular future strategies that may come about, and so making sure that people are working from the same set of information versus different terms or different facts or different sets of sources. And so we want to make sure that there's a sense of shared data that can be used to determine what would be the areas of focus in these communities. And that led to us being able to work with communities to identify different projects, making sure that that data inform what are the different types of projects that could be pursued by these communities, these partnerships, these collaborations, and then from there identifying who are the best ones, who's best suited within that collaboration to move these things forward, and then giving them set timelines and later on giving them specific supports to get these things implemented. And then we worked with them on funding, which really should be termed capital. And I say that because we have traditional forms of financial capital, which are definitely needed. You can't do anything without money. You can't create or build anything without the money for it. But you also can't implement a good program without the social capital that is needed to make sure those receivers of this program, those beneficiaries of these programs, are bought into the program, that they buy in the program, that they are aware of the program. You also can't scale these types of programs without the political capital needed to engage the necessary stakeholders in order to leverage it and build it up. And so when you think of funding, which again should be capital, we help the organization to see it. It's not just financial capital, but it's also political capital. It's also social capital as well. And those who are a part of these coalitions may have a different access to it. One organization may be stronger in social versus stronger in financial, but there's a pathway for them to be able to work together and collaborate together. And by working together and sharing those different resources, are they better able to advance their localized partnerships? We also did work in our communities around policies. And so initially that was about how can various partnerships and collaborations lead to certain policy changes locally. And then as we progress, we recognize that it should also be about internally, how should we, how does local partnerships and governance occur within these particular collaborations? So just making sure that it's twofold type of policy approach, the internal policies of the partnership and the external policy that can be influenced and impacted by the partnership as a whole in order to, again, further scale up and institutionalize whatever project they may want to work on. And then lastly, well, not lastly, storytelling, which was work around how do excuse me, the actual why behind this particular projects. And so as we wanted to help different sites share out the work they're doing, share out why they're doing it, sharing out what they're doing, who's involved in it, we work with them to develop and utilize qualitative data for doing so, knowing that partnerships take time and there may be a period of time where a partnership is slowing down. And so by having that story, that why, that keeps people engaged, to keep things continuous, no matter any particular change that may take to place. And so when we looked at this particular infrastructure, the reason why we started here, rather than jump into a specific project, is that alignment across these 8 areas is the infrastructure that's needed for partnership development. And so by getting the coalition aligned on language, power, data, capital, and stories up front, the projects that follow afterwards are faster, they're more durable, and they're more genuinely shared. And they have a lot more capability of being able to sustain themselves going forward, in spite of any particular changes that may come about. And so I share this framework as the infrastructure of the work that we did in order to inform our our playbook offerings and the work we do across the country through the Alliance in order to help stand up partnerships so that no matter what economic development project that may come out of it, there's an underlying system, there's an underlying infrastructure of local collaborations and local organizations that are in community with each other, that are in partnership with each other in order to sustain it going forward. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to Swati.
Thank you, Cuevas. So a lot of this and more stuff is captured in the Partnership Alliance Playbook. It has insights from not just the training and phase 1, which I hear that there's, or I see in the chat, there's a lot of interest around, and just makes me wonder that maybe we should sort of package or repackage those trainings and make it available. But a lot of the insights or the materials that we gathered for the trainings, as well as the learnings from the 24 sites, are all captured in here, plus downloadable tools to make partnership work maybe slightly easier, maybe a little bit faster for those that did not have the opportunity to go through the Alliance program itself. We wanted to take just a few minutes to talk about or touch on the core insights, which we call the building blocks of partnership building. And think of this as like going from sort of foundation, so going from the base up into the building. So the trust and shared narrative, those are really like the foundational pieces of it. And then as you go further up, that's facilitation and structure. So starting at the very bottom, and let me actually just, yeah, bring this up. So what you see on your screen right now is just there is a lot of the kinds of exercises or the kinds of sort of opportunities and facilitated sessions that we took the 24 sites through in building trust, in sort of bringing them around shared narrative, building, facilitation, and structure. So when we were talking about trust building, things like positionality statements or what are the values that each leader, each individual stakeholder is coming from, what would be the operating norms for the coalition, and also just mapping power, like where does decision making sit right now, and where can there be opportunities to open it up for additional input, for additional decision making across multiple different types of stakeholders. There is um, an element of informality when we talk about trust building. Not all of it happens in very formal workspaces. So think of it as, opportunities where you might be able to meet with your partners outside of work. It could be in at the farmers market, at, neutral third spaces where you can get to know about the people behind the sort of the role that they might have within an organization or within the partnership that they're playing. Similarly, when it comes to shared narrative, there was a lot of time that we spend in that phase with the 24 coalitions and really focused on, what is the problem that we are trying to solve? What are the stakes that the community is sort of wrangling with? But also kind of making sure that we are not just focused on the negatives, but bringing an asset framing to the problem and what is it that the community has already amongst its sort of myths that they can build on, what the coalition's approach would be, and then being very, very clear about expected outcomes and timelines and whose responsibility, what sort of budgets, and those kinds of things. But making sure that there was a clear shared understanding of the problem, of the approach, of the kinds of facets that can be put to bear, and you're moving together from that sort of collective space. I cannot overstate the importance of being very, very candid in those spaces so that you as a stakeholder, you as an organization can be sure that what you are signing up for is something that you're able to deliver on as well. And not every sort of partnership opportunity is going to be the right opportunity for every organization or the right time for every organization. And to be able to, again, be candid and say, this is not how we approach it, or this is not a priority for us right now, or this is, there could be budget constraints, staff constraints, whatever. But when you're signing up for it, that it is from that sort of shared collective space and understanding of what is to be achieved. Facilitation and structure is what a lot of the Alliance program itself was able to provide. So NGIN and our partners provided a lot of convening space, conflict resolution, codification of the kinds of sort of habits and structures that were coming about, a lot of navigation. And our hope was, and we were able to sort of actualize that, is transition that facilitation provided through an external organization more to the coalition taking on those roles as we were getting closer to the sort of wrapping up the project and wrapping up the program. There is a tool in the playbook that talks about facilitation and the kinds of expectations, how to choose a facilitator, how to choose whether it's an individual or an organization that can play in that role, and when to think about sort of transition factors in that will invariably come up in partnership work. And lastly, is structure, which is the idea that, as you do these things again and again, some of it hopefully becomes muscle memory and becomes a part of the way that your organization or the stakeholders or the partnership itself just kind of functions. So that's sort of the durable practices that endure way beyond, an external organization or external support is able to provide. So again, kind of going from top to the bottom of, what is foundational versus how do you build on those foundations further down. So here is a quick snapshot of one of the tools that are in the playbook. It's called the Partnership Strength tool, or assessment. I forget the exact name. But think of it as like, these are levels that you can go up and down in. Um, Pre-partnership is, where it's just kind of like, yeah, we are in our own worlds. We kind of know of each other, but there is no partnership. And then transactional really is the step one where you start to have a partnership of some sort. And the idea is to grow sort of towards each other, more and more cooperative, more and more collaborative, to the point where, decision making is equally shared. There's accountability across organizations, but there isn't. I mean, it's not to assign a value on it. A lot of times, the idea is to see the progression of it from, say, a transactional to a cooperative, or from a cooperative to collaborative, but also not every partnership is going to be co-ownership, as was highlighted to us in a different conversation. The co-ownership type of work takes years of concerted effort to build, and that may not be the right kind of sort of partnership for your community, for the kind of thing that you're trying to achieve. So just keeping in mind what that looks, where you might be at, and how you can move hopefully further up that pyramid. But as people transition, as administrations change, funding streams change, organizations kind of evolve, those can go up and down as well. Cuevas, do you want to talk through the tool, or should we continue on to the case studies?
Yeah, we can talk to the tool real briefly. And so I'm gonna actually, if you allow me to share,
Yeah.
sorry. All right. So I think I'm sharing. Um, yeah, and as we look at this tool, I like to name it as that partnership health spectrum, which again speaks to that there are I used to saying that, I want to start running more, right? But before I start running, I have to walk. And both are good actions for making me healthier, but one is a little bit more healthier. So just when you think of partnerships in this particular spectrum, it's a way of kind of evaluating what can be done to make your partnership actually healthier over a period of time. And so just to kind of walk one of those things through. When we look at pre-partnership, we look at the tool itself, which is again, it can be accessed via the link that's been shared via the chat. The way you would work it is that you'll go through it and answer a series of questions, yes or no, to these questions. And these questions would range from, do you understand the challenges and needs of the communities you aim to serve, to could your goals be better achieved through the collaboration, et cetera. And as you're walking through these series of questions, and you kind of calculate the yeses or nos, the tool provides you with specific strategies that you can do in order to actually make that partnership stage healthier to move from one to the next. So if it is a mostly no, then you may want to start with actually mapping the ecosystem. And so just for context, this is for the pre-partnership. This is before you have engaged with any other partners that may be similar to your work. And so you haven't actually connected with them just yet. And so you may want to start by laying the groundwork for them first. And so mapping the ecosystem of who is in your community that may or may not be doing similar work, and then starting with conducting informational interviews with potential partners or attending local events. And so it just gives you strategies of things you can do today in order to to keep your partnership or strengthen your partnerships from a pre-partnership to something a little bit healthier. And so we have, in this particular tool, we have it set up for each of the different stages, transactional, cooperative, collaborative, co-ownership. And then there's an additional stage that's included here is sustaining partnership. So, knowing that the goal isn't just to get to a co-ownership stage of partnership, but it's to sustain that partnership going forward. And so, but throughout each of these different stages, this particular assessment tool gives you the strategies necessary in order to help make your partnership healthier and progress from the stages in order to get to the next stage that it can be at. And so that's just a quick example of one of the tools that is directly made available to you all via the website, via the playbook. So.
Thank you, Cuevas. We could pause for a quick minute and just kind of see if people have a reaction to, where they think, if you were to think about a particular type of partnership or the typical partnership that your organization is involved with, would you say it is sort of transactional, cooperative, collaborative? And especially if there are examples of co-ownership and sustaining, I would love, love, love to hear about those.
So yeah, feel free to drop anything in the chat or raise your hand. You can come off mute as well if you want to share. If you've got a great partnership, as Claudia said, we'd love to hear what you're doing and how you're doing it.
Well, okay, we'll let people, it can take some time to type things out in the chat. So if people feel like they can drop it in the chat, we'll give you a minute, but maybe Cuevas, you want to talk about the case studies? I'll share my screen again.
There we go. Thank you, Swati. So within the playbook, there are several different case studies that highlight some of the work we did, and so I think there's 9 in total. And that's probably one of my favorite parts of the particular playbook because it moves things from just being frameworks to being real world activities. It's what happens on a Tuesday in this particular community, right? And so I'll start by talking about the Omaha case study. And so within this one, we had the Latino Economic Development Council, the Metropolitan Area Planning Agency, the South Omaha Business Improvement District, and then early on in the process, they had Canopy South as well. Their focus was on increasing awareness of South Omaha's community-based organizations as a central player in the region's economic vision, which is something I'm sure that you all can relate to, given your focus on regional economic development strategies. But through this particular partnership, the hope was for them to South Omaha to not just be a side program, but a core part of the strategy. Through our particular work with them, we focus on that power sharing, that relationship building first, helping them to kind of see the value of incorporating a South Omaha neighborhood in a broader community, helping them to recognize that what happens in South Omaha impacts the broader region as a whole. And from there, you're now seeing a pretty good outcome in that MAPA now is going to integrate CBOs like LEDC directly into their comprehensive economic development strategy. And then with that, you see that LEDC, which is a local neighborhood organization, moved from just a participant in regional work to essentially a co-lead in this work, making sure that they can really set the stage and set the standard on what work can take place in their community as a whole. And so when we think of this, one may say that getting an official uh, LEDC is getting official recognition in the strategy as being symbolic, but it really isn't. When you think about it, it can, and we all know the value and the benefit of SEDS, it can really lead to LEDC actually leveraging and opening doors for further and future investment, direct investment into that specific neighborhood of Omaha. And so that was a great example of how that partnership journey played out in Omaha. And then if you just go to the next stage, the next slide, Swati. So when we think about this, there are three things that really sustain this partnership beyond the initial recognition of being involved in SEDS. Fiscal sponsorship, a CDFI partnership, relationship with Hispanic Contracts Association, all of which are going to diversify LEDC's revenue beyond just being dependent upon grants. There was a particular agreement put in place that's going to support LEDC be more just a transactional partner to MAPA, but actually being a part some type of co-leadership there, so some level of governance change. And then when you look about what's next, and so this is maybe a little bit outdated, they may have submitted it since then, but you see that they'll be submitted, LEDC being a part of the particular submission of SEDS, also LEDC being a local CBO seeking out additional fiscal partnership, thinking about ways that they can take a more active role in the CDFI partnerships, getting them funding, as well as taking a more active role in overseeing a local TIF district. And so when you think about the work that took place in Omaha, it was really to help strengthen that relationship between a very more so neighborhood-based organization and a more regional organization to develop shared outcomes and a shared partnership and shared agreements amongst themselves. And so I really see that as a great example of how um, what could take place when you are engaging in intentional time and trust building sessions with a larger organization and how that can unlock doors and unlock resources to support those more neighborhood-based groups. And at the same time, it's beneficial to these large organizations because they're making sure that they're are helping to really advance their overall economic goals by knowing that what happens to the least of us happens to all of us, right? It's duly beneficial. So that's an example of what happened in Omaha. And then we can go to the next one. And then we have in Baton Rouge. In Baton Rouge, we have the primary partners throughout this program were BRENET, which is Baton Rouge Northeast uh, Economic Development District, and then as well as Build Baton Rouge. Their shared focus was economic development and blight remediation in North Baton Rouge. And so when you think of their work, they are spent 2 years worth of monthly collaboration where the partners themselves didn't have a shared data tool. They didn't start with wanted to focus on a data tool. They actually went through a wide different range of different types of projects that they wanted to focus on. I think 5 or 6 different ones. They would change often, like this is a specific project we want to focus on. But what's beautiful about them is that even though they focus, their project focus changed, what didn't change was their desire for partnership. What didn't change was their desire for having a shared purpose, which is on making North Baton Rouge better. And so through our work with them, we help to maintain that cadence and maintain that trust to where over time, maintain that infrastructure to where over time that they were able to actually come out and say, we want to partner with each other. We want to do so in a way that's respectful and honest and supportive of each organization's missions. And you want to do it in a way that supports the community. And so if you go to the next slide, Swati. And so what that looked like for them eventually was that they worked to create a particular data tool. This tool was utilized to identify which parcels within North Baton Rouge were most ripe for development. And when I say development done in a way that is supportive of local community needs, not just identifying outside developers, keeping in mind that Bill Baton Rouge was the local land bank or redevelopment authority, and bring it with the local neighborhood community group. But through that particular tool, they are now able to assess overall value of these particular parcels, to identify which ones are most suited for development, which ones may be more likely for having some type of transactional vacancy that may come up. The tool is really just a way for them to collaborate on a way to generate the right data necessary to determine a strategy that's going to rebuild homes and rebuild houses and bring up abandoned properties or underutilized properties up to online within this particular community. And again, it shows that it's a representation that throughout the years working, what changed was the project focus. I think at a point in time they wanted to do entrepreneur ecosystem work or ways to engage with Southern. It varied quite a number of times, the specific project or partnership focus. But what didn't change was the partnership itself, and I think that's pretty much the underlying focus of our work is that the partnership is a project through all of these instances. And by having a good, strong infrastructure, a good, strong ecosystem, whatever project is focused on the community can shift, but the partnership itself should sustain itself to make sure that whatever project is beneficial to the community as a whole. And so I'm looking at time, so I'm not going to go over any of the other case studies, but I'll just reference that at the playbook. Like I said, we have several of them there just to kind of showcase. We have New Orleans, we have Detroit, I think Honolulu, I think Sarasota. And so we have several of them there that just kind of just showcase what work could look like in community when you prioritize the partnership first and the project second. The work sustains itself, the work compounds, the work lasts, and the work is more systemic because you have a system behind it to push it.
Yeah, we can take questions at this point. And we'll make the playbook is available at that link that Brett and Amanda already put in the chat. So thank you both. Or here's a QR code if you want to check it out on your mobile device. We're happy to take questions or transition back to Brett.
Yes, Swati and Cuevas, thank you both so much. We've got a few minutes for questions, so please drop those in the chat. Also, some really, really great examples of some collaborations happening as well. So thank you for sharing those. Yeah, so as you're thinking of those questions, one thing that came to mind, and this was mentioned, I think, previously by someone in the chat about kind of staff turnover at the organizational level. And I'm not sure if there's some pieces of this in the playbook, but from kind of the organizations that you are working with, what are some of your thoughts about, strategies and techniques to maintain that kind of those institutional relationships when those personal relationships, might be changing across organizations? Because we unfortunately, see the churn, that happens often, but how do we want to make sure that even if staff move on, those organizational partnerships may, remain?
Yeah, yeah. What comes to mind is this may not be the best way of saying it. Is contracts and continuity. And so when I think about it from an organizational standpoint, there were a couple organizations through the alliance where the simple goal was to ensure that the organizations themselves had higher level MOUs between themselves. And so what that allowed for was that as an organization, we're agreeing to partner with each other, but there needs to be a certain process for engaged or MOUs. And while that was something that the organization did, those who were the front day and everyday workers look different, right? You know, the signers on the MOUs weren't the ones who were directly involved in this process. And so, but what it allowed was that we have organizational backing, and we also have a sense of continuous interest from the staff who are actually directly working with this. So that's just from a continuity amongst people that may go from place to place. Or may transition during this process, and from that time period, from a staff standpoint, that's what the organization can do. Those MOUs, but from a staff standpoint, uh, making sure that there are certain standards and certain cadences and certain practices that are, for lack of a better term, written down or are put into place that whereas people transition out, there's a process, that's a tool that's on there. As people transition out, here's how you can actually make sure that you're transferring this information over to the next person. And so having that organizational background via MOUs, but also having that sense of continuity that is really kind of boils down to making sure that there's proper uh, uh, note taking, for lack of a better term, and then from there, there's proper training or and using that proper note taking that is a tool in Playbook. Using that to train the next person to come on allows for continuity of information and knowledge as new people come on board.
And to what Brett was mentioning, there is actually a tool in the playbook that talks about continuity planning, especially as there is sort of staff turnover.
Excellent. Super, super helpful there too. Yeah, thinking about the offboarding process, how important that can be to be able to kind of capture some of that knowledge that we don't want to lose. Got 2 minutes left. I'm reluctant to even bring this up because I know it's a big topic, but would love to hear, and you mentioned a little bit about this, the measurement and evaluation. Just try to talk maybe big picture about that and maybe a little about the frequency of how often organizations or partnerships should be kind of checking in with each other. Is that, kind of an annual thing? Is it happening at, quarterly meetings? What does measurement and evaluation looks like? I know, of course, this is in the playbook, but maybe in your best 90-second summary or so, we can stay on if you're able to for a few more minutes, how we can best tackle that, complicated but so important, element of it. Yeah.
So one thing I say is more of a preview for something to come. We're actually in the midst of developing a coalition impact calculator that will showcase ways that you can evaluate the value of doing a strategy from a coalition perspective versus individual organization. So that's where I've that's forthcoming. That'll be released soon, maybe about 2 months or so, to help people kind of evaluate there from that standpoint, just from a project standpoint. And then just when you talk about it, like just the frequency of like how should people get together, um, I think that there needs to be a level of flexibility within the coalitions because like if there's a busy season, you need to kind of uptick it and to making sure it's relevant. But you also, if there's not a busy season, you need to make sure that people remain interested. You maybe kind of move quarterly. And so, my perspective is not to say a quarterly thing or a monthly thing, but it's more so just something that's actually responsive to the needs of the coalition. And so, like, you can have those particular, from a cadence standpoint, it should be responsive to how much the coalition needs it. But in regards to like checking in on the progress of the particular cohort, I think every quarter is a good way to kind of reflect back and see how people are kind of checking in or are doing with this particular coalition. But what's even more important is having that foundational setting to where people have been able to build a sense of level of trust to where when they do check in, they're actually truthful in their check-ins. And so it's not as much about how often, but it's about the deftness of it, and that deftness of it happens at the front end where we work with them to do intentional relationship building, helping them to see people not just from an organizational standpoint, but as individuals, and helping them to identify what their shared values and their shared goals are that may shift during the course of the project.
That's great. Really, really appreciate that perspective and recognizing, yeah, the flexibility and again, how complicated this can be, but trying to get to that end goal. Thank you both, Cuevas and Swati, so much for this, for the session today, but of course, all of the work that you've done to be able to kind of condense all of this information with the communities and regions and to be able to share something with all of us here. And from seeing all the great feedback in the chat, I know folks are going to be kind of diving into the playbook. And we look forward to seeing what's next. The calculator sounds like phenomenal. Maybe a future webinar, we'll see with that. But big thanks to both of you. I think I'm really taking away this idea of, partnerships as load-bearing infrastructure. I think that's such an important approach and framing, and doesn't get enough of that. Partnerships don't get the kind of respect that they deserve. It's easy to talk about, but there is a science and an art form behind it from what we've heard today. And you guys have really been able to provide some resources for us to think about this at the regional level, and of course, connecting with our local partners on the ground. So thank you both so much. I'm so grateful for our partnership between NADO and NGIN. I want to be able to continue that going forward as well. Grateful for all of you on the call and our partnership with all of you. As you close out today, you'll see there's a short 90-second request for some information. Give us some feedback on today's sessions and other information you're looking for going forward. This recording should be available in the next day or two. We'll send an email out to everyone, whether you attended or not, to be able to get this information as well as the slides, and we'll post it up on our website. But stay tuned for more great stuff. Hope to see many of you in a couple months in Reno. We'll continue these important conversations. And again, big thanks, Swati and Cuevas, to you both and your teams for sharing all this great work. So with that, we'll send everyone on their way, and we'll see you next go around. So appreciate it. Be safe, and talk to you all soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.